this Army veteran writes, President Trump is causing enormous stress and hardship for families like mine. Is cutting Medicaid. These programs are lifelines. We agree with you, Victoria. She lives in Arizona's 6th Congressional District. Mr. Speaker, currently represented by Congressman Juan Ciscomani. Troy, another veteran, lives in California, Mr. Speaker. Lives in a district currently represented by Jay Obernolte. That's California's 23rd congressional district, I believe. Writes to us and says, I was in the U.S. Army and went to Kosovo in 2001, Iraq in 2003 and 2005. I depend on the VA as I am too disabled to work. I depend on VA health care. My children are now on Medicaid. I have worked from when I was 14 years old to 42. I am suffering from long COVID. And until I can return to work, I need help from the American people. I have had your backs. Time for you to cover my back, writes Troy. Mr. Speaker, I need NIH's help. Now is the time to stand up for all Americans. Stop the assault on the VA, NIH, Medicaid, and the rest of Americans. We agree with you, Troy. It's time to stop the assault on the American people. Stop the assault that is represented in this one big ugly bill. Christy, another veteran, wrote to us and says, I was drafted in 1970. My choice was incarceration or militarization. So I enlisted in the Navy and became a Navy corpsman serving on the USS Long Beach, CGN-9, and her Marine detachment, where I was assigned to the 3rd Marines, 1st Medical Battalion. I was blessed. I lived through 2 tours, giving medical care to my shipmates. Every other day I was assigned to flight ops to transfer or pick up the wounded and dead Marines from shore to ships waiting offshore about 8 miles. I hated the smells of war. This veteran writes, death and misery were my constant companions. The war left me unsettled, mentally and morally corrupt. For 50 years, I have suffered with my PTSD. which went undiagnosed for years. First Congressional District is of VA therapy and working hard for my soul to be repaired. Working hard for my soul to be repaired. Find myself living alone and isolating from others. And I am one of the, thanks to the care I have received from the VA. Veterans, their anxiety with all of us, urging this Congress to do something. Stand up on behalf of the veterans who are going to be hurt by this one big ugly bill. Devastated by this one big ugly bill. We also heard, Mr. Speaker, from Timothy, who I believe may have written to us from the Commonwealth of Kentucky. He says, "My name is Timothy. And for the past 5 years, I have worked at the Department of Housing and Urban Development in field policy and management, the Department of Housing and Urban Development that was once led so ably by our former colleague, Congresswoman Marcia Fudge, and now has been taken in a very different direction." Timothy writes, "In this role, I have educated the community about HUD's programs such as FHA loans and housing counseling that allow people to purchase homes. Affordable rental housing that help people pay their rent, and homeless services that help people find shelter and leave the streets. I have worked with internal data that focused on improving our programs. Most recently, I worked with a team that hired people from housing authorities and Job Corps with the goal of providing people a career and a way off government assistance. Those incredible people, along with myself, have been fired by Elon Musk's Doge. My entire professional career, I have taken jobs that I considered bigger than me. I served in the military, both enlisted and as an officer. I deployed. And am now a disabled vet with a rating of 90%. After the military, I focused on giving back and challenging myself in a way while continuing a job that was bigger than myself, so I joined the Peace Corps. Served in Ukraine for years, working as a youth development volunteer. Now as a HUD employee, I'm being fired by an unelected official and being called lazy by my president. I want to know why Elon Musk has this power and authority and why our elected officials are not doing more to stop it. I have served this country and the government my entire life because I love my country. Why is this happening? Tim writes to us. That is such an important question, Mr. Speaker. Why is this happening in the United States of America? Why are we living in a country where this administration has launched an all-out assault on veterans in the United States of America, firing veterans like Tim in the United States of America, jeopardizing services from the VA earned benefits that these veterans are entitled to because of their extraordinary service. Men and women in uniform who serve this country, Mr. Speaker, benefits that they've earned, and now find themselves in the legislative line of fire from their own government, their own country, and stand to be hurt in such an extraordinary way by this extreme Republican budget, this one big, ugly.
Wishing your kitchen was a walk-in freezer? Stop dreaming and start chilling. Right now we have a summer special going on for Texas homeowners.
Veteran who put on the uniform, every single man and woman who served this country, abandoned you in your hour of need. We're going to stand up for every single veteran in this great country and make sure that the veterans of the United States of America are treated with the dignity and respect that you deserve. That is our promise to each and every veteran in the United States of America, and that's why, Mr. Speaker, we stand in strong opposition to Donald Trump's one big ugly bill. An all-out assault here in the United States of America, an extraordinary assault. An assault on the economy, an assault on our veterans, an assault on farm country, an assault on healthcare, an assault on nutritional assistance. And of course, this one big ugly bill and the Trump administration, I wish it was not so. Because at the beginning of this Congress, Mr. Speaker, I stood right where you stand right now and said in my first remarks to this Congress and the American people that as Democrats, we were prepared to find common ground on any issue to make a difference in the lives of the American people we all represent. But then, Mr. Speaker, beginning on January 20th, a flood of extremism, the likes of which have never before been seen in the United States of America, has been unleashed on the American people. An all-out assault on the American way of life. An assault on small businesses that is underway here in the United States of America. We should all recognize that small businesses represent the heart and soul of the American economy. And if we're going to stand up for any group of people here in the United States of America, in addition to our veterans, our men and women in uniform, and I'm proud that I stand here as the son of someone who once wore the uniform. My father, he's in heaven right now. Marlon Jeffries grew up in Newark. His nickname was Pudding. One of my regrets is that I never got to ask him, how did he get the nickname Pudding? But he left Newark as a high school graduate and put the uniform on, enlisted in the Air Force, and served in Germany during the Cold War. We have to stand up for our veterans, stand up for small businesses. And we've heard a lot throughout this process about concerns from small business entrepreneurs here in the United States of America. Heard from Mercedes, lives in the great state of Colorado. Mercedes writes, my husband and I are the owners of a small business. Without the ACA, my family would not be able to afford health insurance. My daughter also receives free dental coverage as a result of the ACA. I still have major issues with our healthcare system, but at least we have health insurance. My mother, who is retired, also receives benefits from Medicaid in addition to her Medicare. She would not be able to afford health insurance or dental insurance due to the fact she lives on a fixed income. Any cuts to these programs would be detrimental to our health and welfare as a family. I want to thank Mercedes for reaching out and sharing her story, because it helps to put to bed the lie that's been told, Mr. Speaker, by some people in this town. That the people, the everyday Americans who are participating in, have access to programs like the Affordable Care Act, are unworthy, aren't hardworking American taxpayers. They are hardworking American taxpayers. A group of people that real leaders in this country, beginning in modern American history, as I illustrated earlier from President Franklin Delano Roosevelt all the way through our most recent president, who we served with in the last Congress, have recognized that we have a sacred obligation to stand up for everyday Americans who are struggling right now, including our small business entrepreneurs, the heart and soul of the American economy, who right now are dealing with such economic uncertainty because of the erratic, reckless, and dangerous Trump tariffs that have unleashed so much chaos and uncertainty, raising costs for small business owners all across the country, undermining their ability to fully achieve their entrepreneurial dreams. This is not who we should be in the United States of America. Small business owners under assault by this administration. and is a target on the back of many of these small business owners as a result of this one big ugly bill. Janice wrote to us. She's from the great state of Michigan, the heartland of our country. So thankful to all the members of the Michigan delegation and what they represent. Janice, however, she resides, Mr. Speaker, in the 7th Congressional District, represented by Congressman Tom Barrett. Says that small business owner, mother, ACA recipient in Michigan, who recently spoke about how Trump's tariffs would potentially force her to close her business, which has given her family a livelihood for a decade and helped put 2 children through college. I just don't understand why Trump thinks putting tariffs will help American businesses. It's not. She writes, it's going to decimate us. People like us will be hit the hardest. But then Janice shows the great resolve of the American people, the great spirit of resilience of the American people, the refusal to run away from difficult circumstances. Janice writes, people like us will be hit the hardest. But Janice then writes, I refuse to call it quits. I won't give in to him. Janice, neither will House Democrats. Not now, not ever. We will never give in to this type of extremism as being unleashed on the American people. We will continue to stand up for you. One last small business owner that I'd like to mention. So many who've written to us, whose stories I want to be able to share, but let me perhaps go back to share these stories from all across the land. You can share your story with us at democraticleader.house.gov/share your story. democraticleader.house.gov/share your story. We want to hear from the American people as to how we can best represent your interest on this day and on all days moving forward, because your stories are powerful. Your stories will continue to give us the resolve to fight for an America that's fair and just, an America where every single person can afford to live the good life. Good paying job, good housing, good health care, good retirement, and of course a good education for your children. That's not too much to ask in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. work hard, play by the rules, and every single American
Here,
should
can
be
you read
able
it?
to afford to live the good life.
I'm recording something.
But we know that in this country, far too many people are living paycheck to paycheck. Far too many small business entrepreneurs living paycheck to paycheck. And justifiably expect better from this government. We should be working hard in a bipartisan way to make their life better, not unleashing shock, awe, and pain on the American people. That's what this one big ugly bill will do. Devastate everyday Americans. Linda writes to us, a small business owner. I believe she's from the North Country. Lives in New York's 21st Congressional District, Mr. Speaker. Linda's a flower farmer and flower importer in upstate New York. Small business has been impacted by Trump's tariffs on products being imported from Western Europe, the Netherlands, I believe. The economic strain and uncertainty imposed by the tariffs on small business owners operating on slim margins has caused Linda and her customers to incur additional expenses. Linda tells us, Mr. Speaker, everything was going really well until the tariffs. And now she worries the business will go bankrupt and be forced to close if the tariffs stay in place. How is it that we're living in America where President Trump, Mr. Speaker, and House Republicans promised to address the high cost of living in the United States, promised to lower costs on day one? But costs aren't going down, they're going up. And as a result of these Trump tariffs, are now at risk of experiencing thousands of dollars per year in additional costs. And there is nothing in this one big ugly bill that is going to meaningfully make the lives of everyday Americans, of hardworking American taxpayers, of working class folks, of middle class folks, of all those Americans who aspire to be part of the middle class, of the poor and the sick and the afflicted. Nothing in Donald Trump's one big ugly bill that will meaningfully make their life more affordable. An all-out assault on the economy. We're dealing with an all-out assault on health care, on Medicaid, on the Affordable Care Act, on the Children's Health Insurance Program. All-out assault on the care, Mr. Speaker, being provided by Planned Parenthood. The medical care being provided by Planned Parenthood that is jeopardized in this very bill. All-out assault on hungry children, on hungry veterans, and on hungry seniors. Millions of people who will lose their nutritional assistance, will go hungry. Food is being ripped out of their mouths. by this one big, ugly bill, Mr. Speaker, that so many of my Republican colleagues seem prepared to support, notwithstanding their prior statements on the record to the contrary. All-out assault on veterans, an all-out assault represented in this bill on small business owners and entrepreneurs who are the heart and soul of our economy. And this bill also represents an all-out assault on law-abiding immigrant families. And Mr. Speaker, we are going to tell their stories as well. We're going to tell their stories. We're going to tell their stories. Because what's happening in this country, an all-out assault on law-abiding immigrant families, is unconscionable, unacceptable, and it's un-American. Because this is a country that should continue to pride itself as a nation anchored in the rule of law, and at the same time, a nation anchored in our journey as one of immigrants from all over the world. And we should never abandon that journey. We're approaching the 249th birthday of this great country, this exceptional country. And I believe, and we can go directly, if necessary, Mr. Speaker, to the words that were initially issued by Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence. And he went through a whole series of indictments against the king. That America, 13 colonies, which became the 13 states, were working hard to break free from. I mentioned earlier the Declaration of Independence, and of course some of the aspirational aspects of it. There are really two parts, as I can tell. I'm not a constitutional scholar. I'm thankful for the constitutional scholars that serve in this Congress. No one more constitutional and more scholarly than my friend and colleague, the top Democrat on the Judiciary Committee, Jamie Raskin, who continues to lead the charge, standing up for the Constitution here in the United States of America. But as I read the Declaration of Independence, there seem to be two parts to it. There's the aspirational part, Mr. Speaker, of the Declaration of Independence. Of course, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. We understand that now in a more enlightened way. All men, all women, all children, all of God's children created equal. That they are entitled to certain unalienable rights. That among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so we spent a little time talking about what that could look like, our commitment to bringing about the American dream, the good life for every single person in this country, everybody work hard, play by the rules, should be able to afford the good life in the United States of America. That's what we're going to continue to work on. Bring the American dream to life, consistent with that aspirational part of the Declaration of Independence.
Never sue the other driver after a car accident. There's a better way to get paid a way bigger check without having to go to court or pay.
There was also a second interesting part of the Declaration. It was the indictment against the king. And I commend everyone in this chamber, all of the American people who may be observing the proceedings in the House of Representatives, particularly as we approach July 4th, to read that Declaration of Independence. Perhaps I may even enter it into the record later on today. Because we're here, Mr. Speaker, to take our sweet time on behalf of the American people, to make sure as best we can, to cover all of the things that as Democrats we're fighting hard to defend during this extraordinary moment of assault directed at the American people as a result of this one big, ugly bill that will hurt everyday Americans in order to reward billionaires with massive tax breaks and then exploding the deficit and the debt in ways that will jeopardize the future of our children and our grandchildren. But the aspirational part of the Declaration of Independence, of course, that is often famously quoted. But then if you read other parts of the Declaration of Independence, extraordinarily written document, it reads like an indictment against the extremism of the king. It reads like an indictment against the kings. I think of King George. It reads like an indictment against King George's flood the zone strategy. It reads like an indictment against King George's shock and awe strategy. It reads like an indictment against what I think may have been called Project 1775, which is what brought us to Project 1776. And you look at this indictment, and one of the things that it alludes to, it talks about, is the notion of the king's effort to stop the assimilation of people from other parts of the world into the United States of America. So we understand that from the very beginning of this great country, there was a recognition, of course, of the importance of immigration has been launched to the success and vitality of the United States of America. And let me be clear, Mr. Speaker, so there's no misrepresentation. As House Democrats, we understand the importance, the urgency of securing the border. We believe that our immigration system is broken and that it should be fixed in a comprehensive and bipartisan way. So many leaders in that effort, so many big ideas were willing to partner in a bipartisan way. Pramila Jayapal, Linda Sanchez, Adriano Espaillat, Tom Swazi, so many others. Veronica Escobar, we want to partner to fix our broken immigration system in a bipartisan and comprehensive way. Secure our border. But we're also going to make sure we stand up for our nation's heritage, a nation of immigrants, which continues to this very day. It's an important part of American exceptionalism, and as far as I can tell, in my reading of the original document, the writings of the founders of this great country, the framers of the Constitution, they recognized it from the very beginning. They weren't perfect. We didn't have a perfect start. But of course, as the preamble to the United States Constitution set forth, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union. Mr. Speaker, we've been set on this magical course, our march toward a more perfect union. And the immigration journey has always been an important part of the American journey. That's why it's heartbreaking to see some of the things that are happening in the country right now. The targeting in such an extraordinary way. Law-abiding immigrant families, including American citizens. How can this be in the United States of America? Some people who might suggest that we should stay away from these stories. No, I'm going to lean into this part of the American journey because we support our heritage as a nation of immigrants. And we're going to stand up for dreamers, stand up for farm workers, stand up for law-abiding immigrant families all across this country. U.S. citizen children have been deported, Mr. Speaker. Is this who we've become in the United States of America? How can this be? This is extraordinary. 2-year-old American named Manu Borges Santos was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in September of 2022. February, she was taken into custody in Florida alongside her mother and father, both of whom were undocumented. And as a result of this situation, 2-year-old Manu was deported to Brazil. Because of the Trump administration, Manu, a U.S. citizen, only 2 years old, is now effectively stateless. Manu is not a citizen or resident of Brazil. She's a 2-year-old girl, an American citizen. Removed from her homeland, but can't get legal status in her parents' ancestral home. And as a result of her inability to get citizenship down in South America, because she's an American citizen, she has no right to routine pediatric checkups, even though Brazil has a public health system, cannot easily enroll in daycare, and finds herself in an untenable situation. I think we are better than this. We've got to find a better way, because I thought this administration promised, Mr. Speaker, to target violent felons, not 2-year-old American citizens. That's unacceptable, as far as I can tell, in the United States of America. Target violent felons all you want. We support that. They should be deported. But why are resources being spent targeting 2-year-old American children? That's not American. And I don't believe the American people support that. Mr. Speaker, that's not what this country should be all about. Manu wasn't the only one. The only American citizen who's been targeted by the deportation machine, a deportation machine that will be unleashed on steroids by this one big ugly bill. We know that, in fact, is the case. That's not hyperbole. It's not a hypothetical. It's not hype. J.D. Vance told us the other day, don't worry about the cuts to Medicaid.
Is private student loan debt wrecking your life? You really need to talk to White Refi. White Refi refinances distressed or defaulted private student loans that others won't touch. They'll provide you with a custom loan payment based on your ability to pay. White Refi is not a debt settlement company, and they work with each client individually, tailoring each loan to each borrower's specific situation. They can save you thousands of dollars and even reduce your total cost. Is private student loan debt keeping you up at night? So many Americans feel stuck and helpless, and many have even lost hope. Can you imagine not living under this burden anymore? With Y-Refi, you can get your life back, and they don't care what your credit score is. Don't let private student loan debt ruin your life. Call Y-Refi today.
For my procedure, I received the Triscope Lipo 360, and I also had my upper arm done as well. And my procedure was done on a Thursday, and I was back at work Monday. But Monday morning, I was back at work like as if nothing happened.
This is why Sonobello works better than fat freezing. Sonobello offers total body transformation.